This is the super hard part, is making something that's so soft like smoke feel like it's got that impact. Our main character, Delsin, has basically the coolest power. It's like going up to a genie and asking for more wishes.
What happens is when he's near other conduits, he picks up their ability.
The first power that he gets is the smoke power.
That means he can drain it, he can turn into it, and he can project it. When you think about where is smoke in a city, you think of maybe chimneys, fires.
You can get smoke from vehicles in this game, but you have to destroy them first.
And of course, those end up blowing up and blowing up other things around them. And all those things now become smoke sources.
Every designer loves a burning car. I don't know why, but every effects artist has to do this at some point.
The PlayStation 4 is really allowing us to do some stuff that we couldn't before. And that meant writing new tools and new particle systems to accommodate that.
All of our particles are self-shadowing, taking environment light.
You can see that the particles are actually affected by the environment shadows as well.
It just makes everything feel more connected to the world. It brings it all together.
Honestly, for me, the effects are the coolest part of the game right now.
In a fluid fashion, you can combo up melee hits to dashes and moving away evasion stuff, to shooting, to dashing back in. You can dash through guys, grab them, flip them over.
Bam! Oh, that's beautiful.
It inspires that visceral reaction in people when they see it.
It tosses things in the air, and then they kind of like almost hover with some smoke around them, and then they blow up instead of just. It's actually windy gusts of.
It's like
Yeah. Whoa! You know, whirlwind of smoke. Me too. And these bad guys, right? And then at the end, all this crap's in the air. Plop.
I'm gonna shoot this thing right in front of me.
So in the middle of combat, there's bullets flying at you, grenades, whatever's coming at you. You can dodge left, dodge right, completely dematerialize, and then rematerialize somewhere else.
You can also dash into vents, so we made this effect where it sort of swirls in.
Yeah, so he's actually cranking up, and then he kind of does a corkscrew, he jumps.
It's one of those things that just gives you all this energy, and you can sort of jump into combat, jump into action, and you feel so powerful and quick, and you almost want to get surrounded. You're waiting for that moment to get surrounded so that you could just unleash this power that they didn't even know you had.
Delsin is basically conjuring up a storm of smoke and ash.
I think that if you timed out, like, you can push all the ambience down and it gets kind of quiet, almost like an inhale.
Yeah,
kind of has that.
We were really pushing it. Let's have Delsin go as high as freaking possible.
Here he is, he's in the air, he kind of tucks in.
By the time it gets to, about here, he's pretty much reformed at that point, yeah.
And then he kind of dive bombs in. And at that point, he's kind of like dematerialized.
Anything breakable, it's going to destroy.
Yeah.
Any car, it's going to toss, tumble, throw.
Yeah.
Any person.
Yep. Maximum number of things flying around in the air.
We're trying to make you feel like you're this unstoppable force, and it takes wave after wave of enemy to give you a challenge. Your character is the weapon, and that's something that's really, really turned out to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's solid. I love the contours. Like, this texture is really good.
It was really exciting traveling to Japan because there were designers and programmers from all of the Sony studios represented. On the plane, I was frantically putting together a presentation to tell them, kind of what we wanted out of a controller, what we thought was important. And then they had a bunch of prototypes for us to play with to give them feedback on. So it was very much a hands-on approach.
At the beginning of the project, we would get in new controllers and we'd try out new prototypes. And part of my job was to figure out what we could do with them. So we tried a bunch of different things with the touchpad.
Something we're really excited about on the sound side with the new controller is the built-in speaker. It opens up a whole new range of sounds that we can communicate to the player.
It's been fun to explore the vocabulary of interaction between the player and the game.
The fidelity on the sticks allows us to really, you can really draw a bead on a guy. You can be running around, strafing left to right, and just keep the reticle on him the entire time.
Like that guy up in the tower, I go, pow, 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 got him. That was just me like barely moving my thumb to a little bit to the left and up.
The new controllers we have from Sony have much smaller dead zones, which means we're able to have less time when you are making motion and having nothing happen on screen.
And if the controls are right, you don't think about the controls. And ultimately, I want to be thinking, aim for the head, aim for the legs, you know, use this power, use this dash. Triggers feel good, and it holds your finger. So when you pull it, your finger doesn't slide off, your finger stays right where you need it to be.
We've had to totally recalibrate the way we interpret the user's input, as opposed to just an up or down press. It's how fast did they press the trigger, or how quickly did they let it go.
We wanted this game to be fast. Delson smoke powers allow him to really navigate quickly through the environment, so you need that fidelity and quick response of the controller. Guys chickening out.
I mean, I'm like any other gamer. I play for hours on end, and we deal with this every day. I hold this control all day, and honestly, like, I can't wait till this comes out because I want one of these controllers at home, right?
My name is Abigail Walker, but my friends and enemies call me Fetch. I've never hurt an innocent person in my life.
Hey, Reg, that conduit struck again. Gotta stroll through the security checkpoint first, and then I'll scope it out.
That's 2 out of 3.
Brother? What happened? Come on, get up, get up. I know just where to put filth like this, and she won't be hurting anybody else. What do you think I'm doing to the DUP? When it comes to conduits, it's my call. Not yours, not ours, mine. I love meeting new people.
Giant eavesdropping antenna? How long until you're breaking down our doors in the name of protection and security? Calm down, sir.
I don't understand this. I mean, we come in here to protect them from this bioterrorist threat, and they treat us like the enemy. I just spilled a coffee on me yesterday because bioterrorists!
To expedite scanning, please remove all rings and bracelets. The DUP, we're in control.
Hey, you! This is a restricted area! Please confirm subject.
They're leaping.
Okay.
Guess they called in some backup. Not bad.
Peggy 16.
Infamous games have always been about really one core thing. It's this origin story that you get to live out. You're an everyday person who gets superpowers and decides if you want to use them for good or evil.
Infamous Second Son is the story of Delsin Rowe. Delsin is a 20-something Seattle kid who develops superhuman abilities. And he deals with how society is treating anybody with superhuman abilities. It's a situation where this group of Homeland Security type people, we call them the Department of Unified Protection, swarm into the city to eradicate all of the superhumans that are there. And it's his struggle against that group of people and kind of coming to terms with how he feels and how his family feels about people who have these superhuman abilities.
In a book or movie, you're going to tell one story, right? And it's going to be your story. You're going to tell a specific story. Whereas a game, you're going to partner with the player, or sometimes a group of players, and you're going to tell a story together. And you're going to tell parts of the story, and they're going to tell parts of the story, and they're much more invested, they're much more engaged with the story that you're telling because they're participating in it. And the controller is the interface that the player uses. So the designer has video, they have audio, they have story and dialogue. They have all these tools for communicating with the player. The player only has one tool for communicating back and engaging in the conversation, and it's the controller. And the PS4 controller is significantly improved from previous controllers.
We've always felt like the controller itself and the ability for the user, for the player to express himself to us was the most important place for innovation.
A lot of the improvements to the controller are about how it feels. So the sticks feel more responsive, and the triggers feel more comfortable, and the buttons feel crisper.
All of those things really improve the quality of the gameplay experience for everyone who plays on the system. And I think that stuff is so incredibly important. It's kind of the foundation that you build the house on. If you get that wrong, you just can't get anywhere. And so I think it's really, really important what they've done with the controller. But then there's also some exciting new things that give us as game makers a chance to try and give players small but exciting new experiences. And our goal is really to examine that and say, how do we, again, compress the distance between what the player is doing and what's happening in the game? And so the example that I'll give is there's a test that's been created in the infamous Second Son universe to identify people who have the conduit gene, who could develop superhuman abilities. And that test requires a scanning of your finger. And so you have to go up, sort of like going through airport security, but you have to go up and place your finger and get scanned.
Normally you would just have the player hit the triangle button or something, right? But with the PlayStation 4, you can actually have the player place their tip of their finger on the pad in exactly the motion that Delsin is doing.
That gives you a more direct experience. And again, we're not going to be having you press your finger during the entire game, but rather at these key moments, letting you express something in a direct way rather than in an indirect way.
One of the things about Second Son I'm really excited to let players get their hands on are the controls. We've really streamlined them so that you can use any of your powers whenever you want in all sorts of different circumstances. So people will be comboing the uses of their powers and their moves and their attacks really fluidly.
We actually went through and we completely revised the control scheme to make it easier to learn and also kind of more expressive when you're using your powers.
In order to be a frontline next-gen game, you have to be next-gen on a bunch of axes, right? You have to, the first thing everybody looks at and thinks about is visual fidelity, and certainly that's an important part of it.
And I think the thing that's so next-gen about this game is that all the next-gen things are kind of under the hood. You're not sitting there staring at a normal map. You're not sitting there staring at an amazing particle effect. No, you're looking at puddles, you're looking at rain, you're looking at a real building in front of you.
It's also important that your AI and your particle systems and everything else have been stepped up. Our sound is all high dynamic range this time. Every single element of the game you have to turn over the rocks, change all of the underlying assumptions and improve them. And that's what this business is. You have to step back and you have to look at it and say, hey, we made all these assumptions about how things should work, how things should be built. You have to rethink how everything works when you jump generations. And that was a great time for us to also rethink the character and the power set, because you already sort of proverbially have all the parts on the floor. It's a great time to think about how you want to put them back together. And it gives us a lot of energy around doing another game in this universe, because there's so much for us to go build and go discover what's possible. The dreams that we had that were impossible actually become possible. And so it's fun to kind of try and capture some of those moments and bring them into your game.
My name is Abigail Walker, but my friends and enemies call me Fetch. I've never hurt an innocent person in my life.
Hey, Reg, that conduit struck again. Gotta stroll through the security checkpoint first, and then I'll scope it out.
That's 2 out of 3. Delsin, you all right, brother? What happened? Come on, get up, get up. I know just where to put filth like this, and she won't be hurting anybody else. What do you think I'm doing to the DUP? When it comes to conduits, it's my call. Not yours, not ours, mine. Damn, I love meeting new people.
Oh, I want to give him a little more anger in his eyes. So I know I've got this image that has the rage in his forehead and eyes. I can just add a little bit of that shape from his eyes, into the character.
It's like we can really say, okay, that's a really cool moment that we're going to push the camera in and we're going to get all that.
I mean, there are two fundamental changes for this game. The first is that it's on a new piece of hardware, and the second is that it's a new character. And those, I think, are the seed decisions that almost every other decision we made is based on those two decisions, and they were probably made 3 years ago.
With this jump in hardware, you really have the expectations to see what is next gen. And I think a lot of that is not just the better graphics, better lighting, smoother rendering, but the facial capture and the performances that are coming through, just this fuller cinematic experience.
You are not in control.
One of the things that's really exciting is actually capturing the facial animation from the actors and actually getting all those nuances and everything that they bring to their performance, and it just really helps set you in that world. We take scans of the actor going through a range of poses, and we just really want, what is that actor's physiology capable of?
We're using the moving points in space, but in a way that triggers the real nuances and micro movements of what happens with the skin on the face.
You can imagine if every one of these joints are doing that independently, you can have an infinite range of possibilities of what the face can do.
This is pretty freaking awesome.
And you can see right here where it says, okay, this is the area where there's tension, this is the area where a wrinkle is going to be coming through.
They've got the muscle over bone and skin and fat and unique things about how their face moves, and when you get that full range of scans, it's cool to see them get triggered in by the motion just naturally.
We just see awesome performances on the mocap stage, and this time around, I feel like we're getting that. We're getting closer. Whenever somebody has like the small moment of thought, it really, really shows.
It's really exciting to be part of the first wave of this technology where we're grabbing the face and the body motion capture in the same sessions. We're getting results that are much smoother, and that's really, really cool to see.
You are not in control.
Your safety is our top priority. The DUP is in control. To expedite scanning, please remove all rings and bracelets. The DUP is in control.
G6 status.
G6 clear.
G7 status. H1 status. What the hell? What was that?
I don't know. B2 status?
What should we do?
B2 repeat status.
On me. Keep your eyes peeled. The DUP is in control of the situation.
Up there! We got it! Lost B2.
Check in B5, B5.
Over there. Go. Cover me.
I want him alive.
Stop right now! On the ground! Now!
TUP is in control of the situation.
You are not in control.